Hi everyone, I've just finished a modded XCOM run and I want to document a little bit of what I've done, mostly for my future self. This mod list was inspired by Christopher Odd's 2022 playthrough, but I simplified it a bit, made it a little bit easier and a little less overwhelming. Mostly because I haven't played XCOM in years and I forget how everything works. So the major mods I used were Covert Infiltration. This really changes how you approach missions on the strategy layer. Some missions, rather than just showing up, you need to infiltrate, meaning you select a force and then it takes many days for them to infiltrate, and the longer you let it go, the more benefits you get. It also supports mission chain, so for example, to rescue a scientist, maybe you need to do an initial covert infiltration with 2 soldiers that has no tactical overlayer, then you need to do an infiltration with all 6 soldiers, which will go to the tactical layer once you've infiltrated. So it means you end up doing a lot more squad management and a lot more item management as well, particularly because I also used prototype armory, which means that, for example, when you get plated armor, it doesn't just upgrade all of your armor, you need to build individual armors, and if you send them off on missions, infiltration missions, you can't use them for other assaults or other types of missions. So it adds a bit more to the strategy layer. The other big change was I was using the Proficiency class pack, which overhauls pretty much all the classes, so I'll go through those in a little bit. I used Psionics Ex Machina, although I didn't really get into it very much. It overhauls how psionics work. And then another big one that made it a lot harder was Grim Horizon. So Grim Horizon makes dark events permanent. This mod, so actually I guess Grim Horizon was the one that made it hard. You can counter them using covert actions, but if they stick, then they become permanent. This one added a covert action to remove them, but it required, I think, a major or a colonel, and it was quite difficult. But I was playing with Grim Horizon on, so permanent dark events. The other big two were a better advent. So this is an enemy and an AI overhaul. So it just adds a lot of new enemies and makes the AI a bit smarter, so it makes it quite a little bit harder. And then also with Yellow Alert, which again changes the AI. I'm actually not sure exactly how this interacts with a better advent, but one thing I did notice, and I only noticed this after I finished, so just now, it adds a rapid reinforcements, so that reinforcement units receive an extra action point, giving them a full turn. So I was getting wrecked by this initially until I learned what was happening. Reinforcements usually will just drop in and go into Overwatch, whereas with this, they'll actually can attack you straight out of the reinforcement. So that was pretty difficult until I figured it out. So those are the main gameplay changes. I added quite a lot of minor gameplay fixes as well. I'm not going to talk about all of these, but just a few different things to mix up various things that happened. A couple of new items, some mechanics changes, a couple of minor things like that. And then a heap of quality of life mods and some bug fix mods, and the foundational mods that require all of this. So I'll add a save profile from the launcher into the description. So now let's get in and have a look a bit at the map and look through some of the proficiency classes. So here's a quick look at my map. As you can see, I ended up not having any problems with the avatar project. I got stuck early on under Alien Cypher, so all my intel costs were really high and I couldn't really do much. But then once I sort of got through that, got up to beam weapons, I pretty much finished this game 20 missions before I actually finished it by the time I unlocked everything. I only ever needed to do 2 alien facilities. I was playing on Veteran, which was a difficulty level easier than I normally would, but that's what was sort of recommended by the Better Advent mod, and I'm kind of glad I did, because it meant that I didn't get wrecked too bad in the early game when I was trying to figure it all out. But as you can see, I went many more months, although I was starting to get up to a decent force level where prime variants of things were starting to appear. This is the map just before I took the final mission. For soldiers, I also ended up with a very big roster and heaps of colonels. So I'll just go through a couple, not all of them, to show you the idea. So this is the reworked, so this is a Marine class, for example. So it's got 3 different tracks plus an XCOM sort of tract. And these had, some zone suppression, a couple of extra ones to attack at newly activated enemies and changing critical hit chance. The big one though were these levels of proficiency. So every role has these different disciplines that get better. So you can see here aim bonus for reaction shots, plus you can get some extra ammunition, plus you can set minimum chance for reaction shots. So that's for that's for the Marine. But if we look at a different one, such as, let's look at the Reaper, you'll see it can build up shadow stacks and has different things to deal with shadow stacks. And so, yeah, this was quite different. I really enjoyed. I think I ended up with maybe 10 different classes or something, so it was pretty overwhelming. Some of the more interesting ones were the Phalanx, which had a shield and a couple of interesting abilities related to that. Kind of couldn't really figure out how to use this class. All the shield wall stuff didn't really work for me because it ended up bunching units up and then they get grenaded. But once it got to a higher level, between Phalanx Guard, Intimidate, Channeling Field, it got quite good with a pistol and return fire. Being able to sort of run forward and take some shots worked pretty well. The shield also gives about 10 points of shield, which goes up in level. The real MVPs, though, were the Sparks, because you can pretty much take them out every mission. Their will doesn't degrade, so you don't need to manage how tired they get. And this guy, absolute MVP. So he pretty much had a massive kinetic strike, which I think is a default start. Yeah, kinetic strike can that attacks enemy units, but also got untouchable, assault servos, which adds damage, and so between all of that, concussive strike meant he could melee attack people to stun or disorient, and there was another one that was really good. Oh, and Supernova, so could basically do 16 damage to all nearby units. So I used this guy a lot. He was awesome, particularly because if we go to loadout with the kinetic strike module, just make so we can see. With the kinetic strike module, you get a 60% melee bonus, and you also get a free, well, not a free, but no cooldown. You can attack any unit in melee range. So with Relentless, for example, with a Andromedon, you could kinetic strike to kill it, and then kinetic driver to kill the robot that spawns out of it, which was a pretty cool combo. So yeah, that Spark was awesome. Took him out pretty much every mission. Also the Infiltrator Spark, this one here, was just much more standard, but between Overdrive, Supernova, a weapon that shredded, just kind of did a bit of everything. So this guy saw a lot of action as well. So ended up with a heap colonels, a couple of majors, and then a heap of sergeants that were mostly just running covert actions for me. So we'll look at some of the stats. You can, I don't know how to get rid of that menu, but you can see all the enemies I killed. So 84 missions. I got stuck under Alien and Cypher. It took ages for me to be able to get rid of it. So, and I didn't have the intel to keep expanding, so I sort of got stuck there for a little bit. A couple of flaws, killed a whole heap of things. That worked pretty well. Killed all the Chosen. Yeah, once I killed all the Chosen, things got a lot easier. They didn't show up, wouldn't get captured on missions, no ambushes on covert actions. And plus I got all their weapons, so that was pretty cool. I'm not sure how I have 85 soldiers who saw action, because my crew size was only 47. Oh, it was because I had a perk where every now and then I'd get a random soldier at the start of the mission, which worked pretty well. So yeah, a lot of promotions. 22 colonels was more than I needed. Ran really low on scientists and engineers. This is initially because I couldn't get them, but then by the time I got out from Alien Cypher, I'd pretty much researched all the things I needed and built most of the things I needed. So this didn't really slow me down too much, I don't think. Though I probably should have got some extra scientists, I reckon. Although you can see it took me quite a few days to get to mag weapons, but once I sort of got there and expanded a bit, beam weapons came pretty close after, and it's also because I went plated armor first, because I got inspiration from it and was able to rush it. And there, only needed to take out 2 alien facilities. I had both the covert action to reduce avatar progress and also the skirmisher card, so that really helped. The other card that really helped was the Reaper one that lets you one-shot lost. It meant any lost mission was pretty much a gimme. It meant I could take some of the lower level soldiers and get some experience there. So that was my modern XCOM experience. It was pretty fun, I really enjoyed it. I think next time we can up the difficulty level. Also, there's a few other enemy mods that I could experiment with, and I'd probably like to try the psionics a little bit more as well. Anyway, that was XCOM. If you haven't played the game, you should give it a go. It's really fun. If you have other mods you like, let me know in the comments.